Alright, this is part 2 of project 4 overview. Now in project 4, the last video, we started marking up our HTML pages with semantic HTML5 semantic elements. So we have a header, we have a navigation, and we have our footer here, down here. And what's nice about that is that gives us very clear divisions. Now there's going to be others, but I just want to show you how this connects with CSS. So what we need to do is make an external style sheet that is in the same folder as our project. So here's our project. Now I already have a style sheet. I call it style 4. Okay, so here it is. It's currently blank. So if I open this with Notepad, there's nothing here. And it's not connected to my web page at all. So what I have to do is I'm going to go into the head region and I'm going to add a link to this. Now if you don't remember how to do this, it's easy to forget. You can go into our W3 Schools, not ours, but the W3 School web page. You can go to CSS3, you can see CSS How To, and you can see an external style sheet and how to link to it. So simply copy this here. You just need to know where you're going to find that file. So I go here and I place it in my head. I'm going to indent it. And I need to give it the name of my CSS, which is style 4. I can see it's right there at the top of my page. So style4.css. I'll save this. And I'm not going to see any real changes at the moment because I'm going to close out all these extra things here. So here's the folder. Here's this. So I have web careers. This is going to be linked to this. And once I begin to change some things, I should start to see the difference. But I need to open this in a browser. So I'm going to open this with, I use Google Chrome a lot. So here's my Google Chrome. And here's the way the current page looks, which isn't very unusual. However, now that I have some CSS opportunities here, I can start to change some things. So the first thing I obviously want to do is put in my comments, put my name here, obviously, and I'm going to I can start to style things. So currently I have this page. So I always like to make sure my CSS is actually connected. So I always start with kind of always go body, and then I'm going to say, and I'm going to change the background color. And I always just do kind of a middle gray color just to make sure everything is working properly. I'll hit save on there, and if I refresh my page, I want to make sure I have everything right. Since it didn't refresh, I'm looking and I noticed that I left out a 5. This is a hexadecimal value, but if I have the same number repeated, it can just be condensed down to the 3 digits. Really, it's 555555. So there should be 6, 2, 4, 6. And if I save that and refresh, it should work. But that's a little bit dark, and so I'm going to go to a light gray, which is closer to 10. And if I went 999, hit save, and I refresh the page, I have a nice light gray. I know my CSS is connected. Okay? Now, I don't really want to use this for anything at the moment, so I can put a comment around it, a CSS comment that's a / or asterisk and then asterisk. And if I save that and refresh, it'll ignore it. Now I'm going to look at my actual HTML page. So I have my CSS here, and I have my HTML page down here, and I want to bring them together a little bit. So what I want to show you is that I have the ability now to change some things. I have my header region. Now, currently I have a div ID called container. Okay? Now, my container is holding everything else. Everything pretty much in the entire page down to the footer is all inside a container. It's a nested element. So if I wanted to show that page and what's inside of it, I could color that by, now here's where it's different. Since container is a kind of a division I made up, the computer or the browser won't recognize that unless it has an ID of container, and then the CSS page will find that based on this syntax. So I have to say pound or hashtag container, and I'm using the same ID that I named it here at the beginning. So I have a division ID container, and I'm closing that. And when I have an division, I always mark the beginning, and I'll go down to the end of my containers. Because if I don't do that, I can lose track of those, and that's what makes HTML5 semantics so much nicer. So if I wanted to, I could copy background color from here, Control copy, paste it here, Control save, and I could go back and refresh, and I always just kind of make sure things are working the way that I want. So I have a container now that is holding all of this information. Now I want to start dividing up other things within that container. So watch this. I have a container called header. So here's my header. Now header is a specific HTML syntax. Notice semantic element. And that is specific. All of these qualify. And so we have header. And header is typically used at the top of a page, like a header in a book or a paragraph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my CSS, and I'm going to make a, now watch, since it's HTML5, it's already a semantic element. I don't need the hashtag. All I need to do is write header, and then my curly braces. And then I'm going to take this, Control copy, and I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to change its color. I'm going to just first, I'm going to use FFFF. 6 F's is white. So I'm going to say Control save, and what I expect to see is the section that contains the HTML header section, which is just this career 1, the H1 element, should turn white. If I refresh my page, and there it did. And so it blends in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try a different color. And so I'm going to go to my hexadecimal chart here, and I'm going to look up hexadecimal. And I'm going to look for, my favorite one is this one. It's just very helpful. And I'm just going to choose a color to distinguish by, FFCC99 or FC9. If I want, I can put in FC9, Control save, go back to my page, hit refresh, and there I have my header region. And if I scale this down a little bit, my header region is now colored properly. If I go to my navigation, remember my navigation region is the portion containing these elements. If I want to now add a semantic element for that, it's just because it is a recognized HTML5 semantic element, I don't have to have a hashtag. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go down, I'm going to say nav, my curly braces, and I'll add I'm going to copy this, Control copy, and I'm going to add a background color, go to my hexadecimal chart, and I'm just adding these just so you can see the difference. I'm just going to use a darker color, C96. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to say C96, hit save, go back to my page, and refresh, and now I have this portion right here. So it's now being separated out, and the gray is the container's color. So notice that I have the white, which is my body. The gray is the container, so that's the gap between these two elements. We would want to push them together, and you'll learn how to do that later on. And then as I start to make more designations, I'm going to put in a footer down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go in here, since it's a semantic element. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to change the background color of that to something else. And so as we go along, I'll just choose so I'm kind of staying, I'll choose this C99, and here's my footer. I'm going to give myself a space here. C99, Control Save, go back to my page, refresh, and there's my change down here. Now, what else we can do is we can select specific elements within within our code. So what we have is, and actually we're going to have a bigger container that contains this information. So I'm going to make a specific non-HTML5 semantic element, which is called a div. And so I'm going to go here, and after my navigation, I'm going to make my own div. So I'm making it myself with an ID equal to container. Make sure I spell it right, close it. Then I have to actually contain all of this stuff between this and a closing div tag. So before my footer here, I'm going to close this with a /div close. Then I'm going to put in an HTML comment. That's a less than, an exclamation point, 2 dashes. This is div container end, and then 2 dashes and this. And when I do that, Control Save, saving that element here. Make sure I didn't lose something. What did I just do? Here's my div container here. Now, if I go back here and I want to style that section, nothing actually happened, but I have a new box that contains all these. So I kind of put these things in order. After my navigation is since this is a non-HTML5, I have to put a hashtag here and then container, and then making sure I spell it properly. And then I'm going to use a light gray as a background color so we can see it. Control copy. And then I'm going to use light gray is going to be like a 999. Control Save. And if I've done it right, if I do it correctly, and if I don't mess up, I got to make sure I spell it right. Got to make sure I save it. Control Save. Refresh. It's not working, so I got to make sure. That I spelled it properly. So I'm going to go back up here. What I do a lot is just copy this exactly. Control copy. Control paste. Control save. Alright, let me check this. So you'll realize something didn't work. So what I've done is I've already got container, I've already used container here. And so I can't name that the same thing. They have to be unique. So it's not container, it's going to be content. Content. And then I'm going to copy content here, Control copy, go here, change container to content, Control save, and I want to change my div ending because ending of content save, and then hopefully I got to save this, Control save, and I want to make sure that everything else is good. I got to save this, Control save, then I got to refresh everything and make sure everything looks good again.